What's going on, my fellow rock and rollers? Don't forget to smash the bell notification icon to be notified every time I put out a new video on my channel. Now, June 5th, 1975 would mark the day Pink Floyd would see their old bandmate and former ringleader Syd Barrett for the last time. Barrett crashed the band's recording session for their 9th album, Wish You Were Here, and the band members were left both shocked and saddened by the encounter. What happened? Stay tuned to find out. Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd's co-founder and the creative driving force behind their debut LP, 1967's The Piper at the Gates of Dawn, didn't leave on good terms with the band. Initially described as joyful, friendly, and extroverted, he began to experience personality changes, becoming increasingly depressed and socially withdrawn. His mental instability, his volatile on- and off-stage behavior, and crippling addiction to psychedelic drugs made him a liability to the band. Barrett had minimal involvement in the group's second LP, 1968's A Saucerful of Secrets, but he was ultimately replaced by the time the album was finished. And while the band wanted to keep him as a touring member, it became impractical and he was soon replaced by guitarist-singer David Gilmour. Following his departure from Pink Floyd, Barrett would end up releasing 2 studio albums, both in 1970, titled The Madcap Laughs and Barrett. The members of Pink Floyd were so guilt-ridden with kicking Syd out of the band that they contributed to both solo records, with both albums being co-produced by David Gilmour and featuring bassist Roger Waters and keyboardist Richard Wright, respectively. Following the release of the Madcap Laughs, Barrett retreated from the spotlight. Late keyboardist Richard Wright reflected on the solo sessions with Syd Barrett, revealing, "Doing Syd's record was interesting but extremely difficult. Dave and Roger did the first one, the Madcap Laughs, and Dave and myself did the second one. But by then it was just trying to help Syd any way we could. Rather than worrying about getting the best guitar sound, you could forget about that. It was just going into the studio and trying to get him to sing," he'd remember. Fast forward 5 years later and Pink Floyd were working on their 9th studio record, Wish You Were Here. And 2 notable events occurred on June 5th, 1970. One event was David Gilmour was getting married, and the band was completing the final mix on the song Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which was a tribute to Syd Barrett. There was also a third notable event on this day, and that's when Pink Floyd got an unexpected visitor in the studio. An overweight man sporting shaved eyebrows and head, holding a plastic bag, walked into the studio. David Gilmour thought the man was a worker from the record label EMI, while the other members initially had no idea who he was. Eventually, they realized it was their former bandmate Syd Barrett, and according to one report, Barrett held a toothbrush and attempted to brush his teeth by holding his brush still and jumping up and down. In Mason's memoir of Pink Floyd titled Inside Out, he recalled Barrett's conversation as not entirely sensible. And Storm Thorgerson, who was an English graphic designer and video director who worked with Pink Floyd, was present in the studio and later reflected on the conversation, saying, 2 or 3 people cried, he sat around and talked for a bit, but he wasn't really there. During their chat, Andrew King, who was Pink Floyd's co-manager, who was also present, asked Barrett how he gained so much weight, and Barrett reportedly said he had a big refrigerator in his kitchen and he had been eating lots of pork chops. And during the same conversation, Barrett offered his services to the band, but when he listened to the mix of Shine On, he didn't seem to understand the song's connection to his tragic life. Waters asked Barrett what he thought of the song, and he simply said he did not like it and walked out of the studio. And during the visit, Barrett would also join guests at Gilmour's wedding reception in the EMI canteen, but he would leave without saying goodbye. This photograph snapped of Barrett is from that very day. Most of the band members wouldn't see Barrett again until his death in 2006, and Roger Waters would reveal to the Mirror newspaper in 2008 that he did have one final encounter with Barrett, revealing, "The last time I saw him was a couple of years after he turned up at the Wish You Were Here sessions. I bumped into him at a British department store named Harrods, where he used to go buy sweets, but we didn't speak. He sort of scuttled away." And Waters made no further attempt to try and communicate with his ex-bandmate. Waters would reflect back on Syd's contribution to the band in a 1975 interview, saying, "I'm very sad about Syd, though I wasn't for years. For years, I suppose he was a threat because of all the bollocks written about him and us. Of course, he was very important and the band would never have started without him because he was writing all of the material. It couldn't have happened without him, but on the other hand, it couldn't have gone on with him. He may or may not be important in rock and roll anthology terms, but he's certainly not nearly as important as people say in terms of Pink Floyd, so I think I was threatened by him, he'd say. Barrett would end up dying of pancreatic cancer in 2006. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and let me know which stories you'd like to see me cover in the future in the comment section below. Take care.